During a time before the iPhone, there was one Apple product that ruled everything. It was a product that was on everyone's mind. It was completely ingrained within pop culture, and that was the iPod. So today we are going to be looking at the iPod with a 2025 lens. Let's talk about using the iPod today in 2025. Hello Internet, how are you doing today? My name is Brian, if you are new here, and today, like I said, we are going to be looking back on the iPod. I thought this would be a really fun video to do today because we get to look back on the iPod and talk a little bit about it. Talk about using these iPods today in 2025, and also kind of just talk about my personal experiences with the iPod, because the iPod was actually my first Apple product. I had an iPod Shuffle, and I have gained some iPods over the years. All three of these iPods were family members' iPods before, so we're going to be talking about these three iPods today, and also talking about just the iPod in general, talk about how people use it in 2025, talk about how you would basically sync music onto iPods, especially at a time before the iPod Touch. Also want to talk about modding the iPod and how people actually would mod iPods today. I just really kind of wanted an excuse to get out these iPods and kind of discuss them with you guys. Let's first introduce the stars of this video today. We have the first iPod ever in my family. This is the iPod Nano 2nd generation in the silver colorway. This still looks like a great Apple product today. Obviously, she's a little bit scuffed up and a little bit wear and tear, but she still looks very, very good today, and she's still incredibly small today. As you can tell, she does work, but unfortunately, the battery life on this iPod is absolutely atrocious. Let's talk about the second iPod that graced our household. This is the iPod Nano 4th generation in this beautiful purple color. This is probably my favorite purple Apple has ever released. I absolutely am obsessed with this purple. I especially love the aluminum on this iPod because it's so shiny. Here's how this looks. This iPod still works, and as you can tell, she is dying right now. And the final iPod we are going to be looking at today, kind of one of my favorite iPods. This is the 4th generation iPod Touch, and as you can tell, she has a back that is extremely scratched up and scuffed up and disgusting. Especially the original iPods, they had this stainless steel back, and I don't know why Apple decided to do this. As you can tell, with normal day use, it literally gets entirely scratched up, but it kind of adds character. As you can tell, this iPod again is very skinny, and let's just compare a modern day iPhone to an iPod. As you can see, we've gone a long way in our Apple history. Those are the three stars of the show today, and as you can tell, this iPod is running out of power, which is fantastic. So let's dive right into it and talk about using an iPod today. So I would describe the experience of using an iPod today as kind of chaotic, you know. You have to deal with absolutely horrible, atrocious battery lives of these iPods, and unfortunately these iPods are not very repairable friendly. So replacing the batteries of these iPods is kind of, I wouldn't say impossible, but it's definitely something that you need specific skills for. Of course, the iPod Touch is definitely a little bit more repair friendly, even though there's absolutely no screws on this iPod. You still can take off the screen and replace the screen and whatever. Unfortunately, these iPod Nanos, I believe the iPod Nano is known to be the worst iPod to ever repair, so there's that. So yeah, using an iPod is kind of chaotic for that reason, but it's also chaotic because the fact that these iPods, specifically these two iPods, do not have internet connection on them. I know, there was a time before where your iPod didn't connect to the internet. Your iPod didn't have Bluetooth, your iPod didn't have Wi-Fi in it, your iPod was just used for music. I know, groundbreaking. This is something that literally everyone had to use. I am basically a caveman admitting this to you, but it is true. Their iPods did not have an internet connection, so you may be wondering, if you're very, very young, how the heck did you use a freaking iPod? Well, you had to plug this into a computer and you had to download songs that way. The great thing about these iPods is you can still use these to this day. The fact that you don't have to update them, so you don't have to update the software or anything. It doesn't have a lot of software updates, so it doesn't age horribly. Because of that, you have to make sure you have a computer that has iTunes installed, or I believe now Apple Music installed on your Mac. You also have to make sure you have a computer with a disk drive too, because there's only two ways you can get music on an iPod. You can download songs from the internet using iTunes or using a CD. So I'm actually going to be showing you guys a tutorial of how you can actually sync songs on an iPod. I'll be doing that right now. Launch iTunes or the Music app, plug in the CD drive needed, insert the CD, find the CD and click Allow Import, let it import and plug in your iPod, drag album onto the iPod. So as you can see, syncing songs on an iPod is definitely a long drawn out process. I do want to say that if you do want an iPod today and you don't have access to a computer, it may not be a horrible idea to get an iPod Touch. I wouldn't get an iPod Touch 4th generation because unfortunately these iPods are no longer supported. If you were to get maybe like an iPod Touch 6th generation or 7th generation, those iPod Touches are still pretty much supported by the App Store, so you can download apps like Spotify. Yeah, I would say that if you don't have access to like a computer, these iPod Touches are probably a little bit better solution for you. Let's just move on. Let's move on to the next section of the video. Now I want to talk about my first ever iPod that I personally owned. I also bought this myself with my birthday money. I bought this back, I believe, in 2010, and it was an iPod Shuffle in the color blue. This was the exact iPod Shuffle that I had. I love this iPod so much. Unfortunately, I gave this iPod to a friend a long time ago, so I no longer have this iPod with me. I hold it near and dear and have a special place in my heart for this iPod because this was my first ever Apple product. I always wanted an iPod growing up. I never had an iPod, so one year when I got a bunch of birthday money, I decided to finally go out and buy my own iPod. This is back at a time where you could buy an iPod Shuffle for $50. You cannot even imagine to get an iPhone for $50 today, brand new. So you know what else you can get today from Apple for $50? An iPhone case. Times have definitely changed and it's not for the best. I remember just being so happy that I finally bought my first ever iPod. I remember for Christmas that year, I asked for a bunch of iTunes gift cards so I could buy a bunch of songs on there. And I remember the songs that I bought off this iPod. I remember I bought Bad Romance by Lady Gaga. That was my first ever Lady Gaga song that I loved so much. I still love to this day. I also remember buying Owl City's Fireflies on that iPod. I also bought Womanizer by Britney Spears on that iPod. And I bought some Fred Figglehorn songs. Yes, I'm not kidding. Fred, he made music. I know, crazy. I also remember buying a TikTok parody from a YouTuber at the time. Now I'm talking about TikTok, the song by Kesha. I bought the parody song for that on my iPod as well. That was the best way to spend $1.29. That was my first ever Apple device and my first ever iPod. I used that iPod for many, many years until I got, of course, my first ever iPhone. Without buying that iPod, I don't think I'd be as obsessed with Apple as I am today. That's kind of my iPod Shuffle story. So now let's get into exploring the iPods that I have for you guys today. So let's go over to my desk and show you guys those iPods up and close and personal. Welcome to my lovely desk setup here, and we are going to be looking at these 3 iPods right here. Let's get into it and first look at the iPod Nano 2nd generation. So I'm going to make sure I plug this iPod in because, again, like I said, the batteries are really bad in them. And here is the main menu. You have music, you have photos, extras, settings, and shuffle songs. So when we go into the music setting, we have playlists, artists, all that type of jazz. I just kind of put my songs on here by albums and whatnot, and look at have all of these albums on here. Some of these are my songs, some of these aren't my songs. So like we have these songs is playing right now, but obviously there's no speaker in these early iPods, so you can't hear them. You have to have headphones plugged into it. I can rate it, which is kind of cool. But yeah, this is kind of just the iPod interface. This one is a very, very simple user interface. Look at the extras and see. So we have a clock, we have games, contacts, calendar, notes, stopwatch, screen lock, stopwatch. That was my last timer, so I can do a timer. And I can start. Literally, this is a stopwatch. So there's a few games on here. We have Brick, which literally, what do you think it is? Then we have Music Quiz. So this actually makes Music Quiz for you. So you have to figure out what song this is. That is so cool. I wish they had this still available on iPods today. Then we have Parachute. This one, I remember playing this one all the freaking time. This is bad. I'm so bad at this. I'm so sorry. And then we have Solitaire. I don't know how to play Solitaire, so I'm not even gonna try this, but those are some games on here, which is kind of cute. So this is the iPod Nano. So let's move on to the next iPod. This is the iPod Nano 4th generation here, and this is my favorite one. I don't know why. This is just literally my favorite. I love the aesthetics of it. I love how this is. So we have music here. We have a lot more options here, which is kind of cool. We got cover flow. And if we turn the iPod like this is one of my favorite features on the iPod, cover flow. You can explore your entire music library through your album covers. So cute, so cute. I love this. This is amazing. They need to bring this back to Apple Music or whatever. And yeah, we have videos on here, which I don't have any videos on here. Don't have any actually, we do have photos. This is my mom's iPod, so that's why it's on here. Podcasts. We have 3 podcasts on here. I have no idea what these podcasts are, but okay, cool. And then the extra section, again, there's more games on here, which is kind of cool. There's alarms, calendar, clocks, context, games, notes, screen lock, stopwatch. I got rid of some options on here, which is interesting. The games, there's different games on here. Now there's Klondike. I don't really remember this game. Oh my God. So it's literally Solitaire. That's what it is. Then we have Maze. New game. These are so much nicer. Like these games were like actual games, which is cute. And I think they had music on there too, which is kind of cool. Oh yeah, I forgot this had the motion gyro sensor in here, so you literally had to turn your iPod all around to get this to go, which is so cute. And then we have Vortex, which I played Vortex the most on here. Oh, it's literally just what we did before, but it's like more cool and edgy and all that type of stuff. And like I said, there's a bunch of songs on here too, but like here, we got a bunch of music on here, as you can see. Some of these are my songs, some of these are my sister's songs, some of these are my dad's songs. We just had everything on this iPod. The Computer Nerd 01, oh my god. I bought this with my own money. I bought this song with my own freaking money. But as you can see, I love the music experience better on this iPod because it's just nice. This is such a nice iPod. And that is the iPod Nano 4th generation. Would you look at that? This is my iPod Touch. This wasn't my iPod Touch, but I have it now. Look at this. I mean, do we really have to explain this, how iconic this is and everything? But again, we can go to the music, we can see what type of music we have on here. And this old music interface is so nice. And I believe it also has cover flow. So if we turn like this, yes, you can touch your music, which was the coolest thing. Look at this. Look at all the music I have on here. Obviously, I've been using this more often and I download more modern music on here, but this is just great. And the best part about this iPod is the fact that it has a freaking speaker. This is how loud it gets. It doesn't get loud at all, which is so freaking funny, but look at this. This is adorable. I love this. And again, here is Ocean Eyes, which I downloaded this song on my iPod, and I absolutely love this song too. I have so many songs on here. Oh, we're already at 20%. Okay, so we clearly have to plug in our freaking cord. And as you can see, that old sound is so iconic. So cute. We love the iPod Touch. I have photos on here that I've taken with the camera roll. This is so cute. This is so adorable. But there's the iPod. How iconic. There is. I completely left out two other iPods that exist as well. There are iPod Shuffles, which I had an iPod Shuffle originally. Those are iPods without screens on them, so you literally had to shuffle all of your music. They're great, but again, they have really tiny batteries, so I definitely wouldn't recommend them. And unfortunately, with those iPod Shuffles, there's literally only one way to charge it, and it's through the headphone jack. And if you know anything about that, that means if your iPod has a bad battery, you won't be able to actually listen to your music on your iPod Shuffle. I would not recommend those iPods. Editing Brian here. I just want to mention that there's another iPod I completely forgot about, and that is the iPod Mini. So there's that. And then there, of course, are iPod Classics. I believe those are a little bit easier to repair and replace batteries in them, and those are really good iPods that are really modded. If you search up modern iPods on either Google or on YouTube, you will find a whole community of people who actually mod iPods, and they're really cool. So I searched up modern iPods on Google, and as you can see, you can actually find a professionally upgraded iPod on Etsy. It is $239, but what's pretty cool about this is they say iPod will be professionally customized and built for you, so it has a better chip inside of it. You can do a certain color. I believe they give you USB-C charging. You can also put an AirTag in it. You can even add a Taptic engine on there, which is pretty cool. So this is a person that actually really customizes iPods for you. There's other iPods that people could custom build. They sell them on Etsy. They sell them on eBay. There's also a website called Player Mods, which is pretty cool. So the best music player of all time has come alive again. You can buy custom iPod Classics and you can do certain mods for them, which is pretty cool. There's a whole community out there of making modded iPods. This is something really cool that you can look into if you really do like iPods. But I kind of just wanted to explore that with you guys because that is definitely an option that you can do, which is pretty cool. Alright guys, that was it for my iPod video. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. I had a fun time talking about iPods and kind of talking about using iPods today in 2025. If you guys would like more classic Apple type of content, definitely let me know that down in the comments down below. I would love to make more classic Apple videos. Thank you guys again so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, be sure to hit that button down below and subscribe and click the notification bell to get notifications on whenever I upload a video next. You can also follow me again on all the social media. Links are going to be down in the description down below and also right here. I think the iPod is an absolute legend, so let's give her one last round of applause before we go. And I shall see you guys in the next video. Have a great day. Bye.